Our last section in 1.4 is adding and subtracting percents. Let's take a look at the two types of examples we'll see here. In the first example we have where they both percents have decimals already. In this one, this percent has a decimal point already, and this percent has a decimal point already. The only difference, and hopefully you remember from the previous section, is the second one, 13.73, has 2 decimal places, and the first one has 1 decimal place. We're going to add a placeholder. Remember, this is necessary so that our addition or our subtraction comes easy to us. So here we have 1.50% plus 13.73%. So we add these together and we get 15.23%. Right next to the percent, we see another type of setup. What we see here is that they've turned the percentages into decimals. Now you know how to do this. Sometimes it's necessary and sometimes it's not. When is it necessary to turn a percent into a decimal? Percent to decimal? When you are multiplying. In this case, where both of these numbers, and now what do I mean by both? Let's do double highlight. Both of these numbers, percentages already, then you don't have to go to a decimal. It's perfectly okay to add this the way they are, and then just have the percentage at the end. In this case, in this setup right here, what we do notice is that they add, and then we have to come back to a percentage. So in my opinion, in this section in particular, it adds an unnecessary step, but know that that option is available to you. The second example that we have here is when both of them don't have decimals. Not only do we add 0 as a placeholder, but we also add the decimal point that is absolutely necessary. So just as usually, let's go and add this place value. Here it is. And then we subtract, in this case, vertically 0 minus 2. We're going to have to borrow and so on. So what are we seeing here? Summary is that you're doing the same process as we did with decimals before in the previous section, but now you have percentage symbols. Let's take a look at our examples. In this case, the first thing I want to notice is, do these have decimal places? The first one does not. The second one has 1 decimal place. So we are going to add a decimal and a placeholder. We are subtracting. And keep in mind that all of these are percentages. I don't have to change unless you decide to. So 0 minus 2, we need to borrow. 10 minus 2 is 8. 4 minus 5, we need to borrow. 14 minus 5 is 9. Bring down your decimal point. And 8 minus 3 is 5. Our answer here is 59.8%. How about C? 100% minus 25%. I'm going to go into a shortcut because I love shortcuts and I like thinking about association with my everyday life. I'm going to associate this with $1 minus 25 cents. This one's super easy to think of that in that manner. But of course, you don't have to think about it like that. Let's go ahead and set up the subtraction the way we always do. Remember that place values line up. In this case, neither one of these has a decimal point, and we do not have to add it. It's not there, so it's not necessary for either one. And let's go ahead and borrow. This 0 is going to borrow from the neighbor. That one's also a 0, so we need to look at the other neighbor. And here we go. We're ready to borrow. So we have 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 2 is 75%. Part E. 0.15% plus 99.7%. Let's observe our decimal places. This has 2 places after the decimal. This has 1 place after the decimal. The first thing is to make them match. Align your decimal places. And so here we need a 0. So we are ready to add. We have the lined up decimal and the same amount of decimal places. So we have 5 plus 0 is 5, 7 plus 1 is 8. Bring down your decimal, 99%. I hope you're feeling confident in this section. I've left B, T, and F for you to try.